Yeah, and one of the things that happened, and you really didn't understand this unless you were participating in the sport, in trying to qualify for the CrossFit Games, like we were so many times, is that the...
You all right? Yo, at this point in time, I create CrossFit content, which is weird. If you follow my Instagram page, you'll see that I ran into Travis today from Vindicate, and I shared with him a couple of things that I've really only told Alexis, and a couple of those things are kind of what my intentions are with making YouTube videos. So while there is a goal to all of this, I do create CrossFit content, fitness content, just shit for people to watch. As a coach, as a trainer, somebody who works with people towards their fitness goals, I'm merely a hodgepodge of everything that I've read. I've mentioned the Arnold Schwarzenegger Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. I've taken the CrossFit Level 1. I've done CrossFit Mobility. I've done CrossFit Endurance. I've done CrossFit football courses. I've got an undergraduate in kinesiology and exercise science. And then I've been through the annals of just about every single forum on bodybuilding.com. I've done a whole bunch of watching on YouTube channels for people that I respect, people that I think that have very concrete opinions and things that help others in the fitness community. And I say all of this because I give people my opinions based upon the things that I took from all of those sources. And if someone asks me how their squat looks, I pull upon all of those things and I try to like throw it at them in as precise a manner as I can where it would make sense for that person. If their knees are falling in, I don't know where it comes from at this point, but I'll give them cues and things I think that'll help them bring their knees into the proper position for that individual to be squatting, which is different than somebody else. Interestingly enough, the one source of media that I left out was podcasts. When I commuted to school in college from 2010 to 2014, there was always a podcast on in the car. It was 25 minutes there, 25 minutes back. Once I graduated, the affiliates that I worked at, some of them were a little bit further away. So it was like 35 minutes there, 35 minutes back. And to this day, I very much look forward to driving because you've always got something on and you're always listening to something. And one of the biggest podcasts I listened to in the past was the Mind Muscle Project. That was up until about 2018. I actually found a post that I made on Instagram where I was doing a one-arm pull-up, and in that one-arm pull-up, I make mention that I'd heard the Mind Muscle Project talking about these things. Something about doing it on one arm and then doing it on another arm. They never saw that thing. They might see it now. That'd be cool. But that was on September 1st of 2018, and I scrolled through all of the podcasts that they've done. I go, I haven't listened to the Mind Muscle Project in a while, and I found out why. It's because they no longer talk about CrossFit. The thing that I'm interested in the place that they came from. That is until I came across a YouTube video the other day where the Mind Muscle Project dudes, is it Ralph? And then there's another name. It's Ralph and something. But Ralph and his Australian buddy, bloke, wanker, that's British, I think. They made a YouTube video titled The CrossFit Games, a story of catastrophic failure. And I was like, oh, hold on there. You guys don't even do CrossFit stuff anymore. What are you talking about? However, I told you that I already had respected a whole lot of their opinions because there were a couple of people that I listened to a lot. I even remember what their intro was sounding. It was like do 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 do.
This is Lachlan Rouston. This is Ralph Freeman, and you're listening to the fittest podcast in Australia.
Project, welcome.
But I don't remember the second guy's name still. Their clickbait triggers me, and their video hits the nail on the head a little bit, and it also misses the mark a couple of times. So just like the video I did the other day with Simply Mander, I'm going to play a little bit from the Mind Muscle Project, then I'm going to talk about whether or not I agree with the things that they're going to say. And I know that they didn't see this one coming, because if they knew what they had coming to them, by the way, check that timestamp out. That's a different timestamp, because I'm coming back from the end of this video to put this into the beginning of the video.
You've got to come back with me. Where? Back to the future.
Because I get a little bit fired up right in the middle of this freaking thing. These guys pissed me off. But in their comment section, I found some bets. Someone wanted me to come say some stuff about these freaking idiots. Steve Kelleher, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bets in your comment section. And what do they have to say about the 12 bets in their comment section? COVID question mark? Ha! Ha! COVID? You really don't know what the bats are? That's how far removed you are from the CrossFit space, and yet you're about to give an entire video on what you think your opinions can be about how CrossFit is dying? Yeah, not quite. Not quite. Let's roll.
So getting into the first one, let's start with some facts, right? Let's start with the opens. What was and probably still is the most participated online fitness competition in the world? And that was really how they gathered, the CrossFit Games gathered momentum and participation. And I think it was a really good single indicator of like how is the general public's interest and the general public participation in the sport of CrossFit, in the CrossFit Games. Not like who's going to CrossFit gyms, but like how interested are people in the CrossFit Games. And really what I've learned is like how well the CrossFit Games is doing is like really how well CrossFit is doing.
This is one of a handful of times where I do think that they missed the mark because only 80 individuals make it to the CrossFit Games on the individual side. There's more team members, of course. There's the masters, there's the teen athletes. But if you want to get back up to the 400,000 participants in the Open that was 2018, I don't know how you can suspect that this has no indication of the health of a CrossFit gym. CrossFit is a health and wellness program. CrossFit the methodology. I've always heard that level 1 sales are probably the best indicator as to how CrossFit is doing, but I think that it's kind of missing the mark to say that the CrossFit Open is no indicator as to how CrossFit is doing at its core.
So 2011 first Open, 26,000. By the time it hit 2015, 4 years later, it had over 10x, 273,000.
Nuts.
Insane. 324, 380,000, 416,000. So it was growing, but at a smaller and smaller rate until 2018.
It peaked in 2018.
Yep. So nearly 500,000 people to it, which is pretty unbelievable. Right,
Did we compete that year, 2018?
2017, we went as a team.
We definitely
we went as a team.
This is the first glimpse into these guys talking about how they're not really competitors anymore, and coincidentally, the time that they stopped being competitors, they also thought that CrossFit started to die. Just saying.
2018, they hit their peak. It's not even, you can't even blame the pandemic. Things started to unravel. From your perspective, like what did you see as like the main reasons that they started to unravel in terms of
self-destruction?
Internal.
There's definitely some external factors, but the biggest one which hit at that point was self-destruction. So literally it had become really big, but like a lot of sports that are growing, it's not very profitable as it grows, right? They were spending more money on the sport than the sport was making for them. So the heads of the company decided to, like, whereas somebody else might have took on funding and exploded this thing, right?
Yep.
To keep it going. They did the opposite. They cut all the funding for it, cut as much as it could, and especially cut the legs out of the sport, no matter which way you look at it. Got rid of all the regionals. Then it was like, oh, what's the point of competing in the first place? Stopped doing the Netflix documentaries, and then everything started to unravel from there.
Yeah, they fired their media team. Yeah, I think they just really took the wind out of the sails. And
bingo, they fired the media team. Best thing that they're going to say over the course of this entire podcast, YouTube video, whatever they want to call it. If you are Joe Schmo hanging out wherever you're hanging out in the world, you have no methods of hearing or seeing CrossFit roll across your media, like TikTok, YouTube, whatever. How you doing, Leo? What's up, buddy? Hey, Leo. Hey, Leo. That wasn't always the case. I feel like we all know somebody who used to do a pretty good job of that.
Another thing that happened on like a grassroots level is there was just like so much other competition to CrossFit gyms. That's what we noticed, right?
That's a good point.
As a group fitness offering, CrossFit was like the thing to do, no matter who you were. If you were like, I want to do group fitness, CrossFit was like one of your only options. And then what started happening is the Barry's boot camps, the Orange Series, the F45s, they started to really take off as CrossFit took off. And eventually people were like, injuries was a massive thing as well. And there wasn't like an alternative to CrossFit. Your alternative was, I'm getting strong, I'm doing well, I'm having fun, I'm losing weight, I'm injured. Okay, but this is my only option. I really enjoy it, so I'm going to do this. But then eventually it was like, oh, well, come try F45, you won't get injured over here. And so people are like, oh, let me try that. Oh, I'm not getting injured. Oh, okay, I'm doing that, I'm still enjoying it. They told their friend, etc. And then all of a sudden, the leads that started to generate on the business side of CrossFit Gym started to slow down and dry up. And that eventually had a compounding effect of just like less people interested in participating in the sport. And there's always going to be an effect of like, yeah, I've done this 2 or 3 times, now I'm over it.
Yeah.
And it kind of ran its course. Most people had done 2 or 3 opens, realized they were pretty shit. They were just an average person. And then eventually they just decided it's not for them anymore.
These guys owned an affiliate. I think it's called CrossFit Creature, if I recall correctly. And if they're anything like me, they would have preached to their members that signing up for the Open was kind of our yearly benchmark to see how you were doing over the course of the whole year. Finish 100,000th one year and you finish 90,000th in the ensuing year, that means that you did better. And also when they talk about the Barry's boot camps and the F45 opening up, there used to be a guy at the top of the company that everyone wanted to, like kick out and cancel, that used to take legal action when things like CrossFit tended to pop up. And I don't think that he did did that in relation to the F-45s and the Barry's boot camps, but I do know that I used to hear about a team of lawyers that would drop the hammer on people that were doing CrossFit that were not CrossFit. And I suppose that doesn't apply to other group classes.
2 years ago, now they're snatching their deadlift. Or like, man, we used to do this workout at 60 kilos. Now we're doing it double 120. Eventually that slows down. You can't go from like 120 to 240.
No, it's completely stopped.
Yeah.
Like the weights are the same as they were 5-6 years ago.
Athletes are probably going backwards as they work on different skills.
Yeah, which is like how it is in all sports.
No, that's not how it is in all sports.
Right?
Yeah.
But the problem what shot them in the foot was like what was exciting about it was insane jumps in performance.
Yeah.
Which were like, we were like trained to expect that.
Yeah.
You know, we're like, dude, if they're snatching this much, dude, what are they going to be smashing in 5 years? And then you realize like, oh, actually, yeah, the same.
While they're correct that there kind of has been a ceiling, I don't think that that's removed any of the fun from the sport. Like Matt Frazier hit that 315 snatch back in 2014.
From.
In Untied Metcons, everybody remembers that video. And there really haven't been all that many snatches all that heavy. Anthony Davis is one of them. Tola Morikino, somebody. Those two could hit something like 325, 335 pounds on the snatch. On the female side, I think Danny Spiegel's got one of the best snatches, 225. But it doesn't make it any less exciting that those numbers aren't going up.
It doesn't matter what you think.
Actually, it would be retarded for them to keep on trying to increase it because they can already win the event no matter what, and it's just becoming sports specific. The thing that they are increasing is just about everything else. So we can't point to the freaking anaerobic numbers because typically the ones who are all that strong have huge deficits somewhere else. If Danny Spiegel snatched 265 instead of 225, it doesn't help or beat Tia Toomey. So I think this is a pretty bad point here.
Yeah, and one of the things that happened, and you really didn't understand this unless you were participating in the sport, in trying to qualify for the CrossFit Games, like we were so many times, is that
You all right?
it was so enjoyable. They were basically the second generation of CrossFitters, right? So like first generation was like all the guys that started in like their mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s. And there was just the open open wasn't even around then.
It doesn't matter.
Right? Yeah. So a lot of those guys came through and you didn't really have to have much of a sporting background. You had to just be pretty fit. That was like deadlifts and burpees and kettlebell swings. That was like the only movements. And it was just like who was tough, who was mentally tough. And then the next generation came along and it was us, and we were starting in our sort of late teens, right? We were starting at like 18, 19, 20. And we had the advantage, bit more youth, could start a little bit earlier, probably better mobility. There was better programming, better coaches coming around. And so we had a sort of an advantage on that first generation, and we would overtake them, but it wasn't a huge advantage, right? Now the next generation, the third generation, now if you understand anything about developing skills and developing athletes, the sooner you start, the more exponential the growth is as you become older and older. So for example, if you start playing tennis when you're 10 versus when you're 5, it has a dramatic effect on how successful you can be as a tennis player, and versus when you're 15. So like the difference between 15 and 5 in terms of development is not 10 years, it's like 30 years of development, right? So that's basically what happened. Then the next generation washed through, and then they were so far ahead of where we were, and because they were starting so much younger. They were starting when they were 10, 11, 12. These are the kids of the first generation, that they were so much better than us by such, and some people probably listening to this going, these guys just suck and they're bitter and they never made it. I'm like, this is just the facts, right? This just happened to everyone.
Man, people say that stuff about me. They're a former regional level athlete. And if I ever give off these kind of vibes, like I might just stop making videos right now, because what you're doing is you made a video talking about how CrossFit basically killed itself. What's the title of this video? Why CrossFit Died, a story of catastrophic failure. And you're speaking from personal accounts, while at the same time saying that you had the same advantages of those who kicked you out of the sport. I'm 31 years old. Everything around me I owe to the thing that you're talking mad shit about right now. This video that you're making right now, you wouldn't be making it if it weren't for CrossFit. And you can't say things like, we were so into it, we had this huge advantage because we came in, we were the second generation. And then also say that the fact that the third generation has all of this huge advantage from the learning curve, which I do agree with. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just the facts. Like if Justin Madero started CrossFit at the age of 16, while I started it at the age of 22, there's a good chance that he's got a pretty good leg up, and that's cool. The dude's a beast, and I like to watch. And sure, while there's times where I wish that my freaking parents made me play baseball as a kid because I love baseball, I still watch it. I still play softball every week. I'm not gonna make a video about why baseball is dying and how it's because I didn't start playing baseball at a young enough age. It's just a little rough to listen to at this point right here.